good, y'all? Welcome to another episode of Dynasty Queens. I'm your host, Pamela Nicole, and I got
Mia J, baby. What's up?
Baby. Before we get started with today's wonderful guest, I do want to give a really quick shout out to our sponsor, Social Media Blast Off. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, model, whatever, you name it. If you need a little help just boosting up your socials, just making it to its fullest potential, go ahead and take a look at socialmediablastoff.net. Right now, if you go ahead and scan this QR code right here, you'll get 40% off. So go ahead and get your stuff started today. Guys, I want to introduce y'all to the revolutionary, vivacious, amazing Reverend Felicia Parazaider in the building. Woo!
Hey. Hello. It's so good to be here.
So I'm so glad you're here with us.
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Of course. So before we begin, Felicia, if you could just give our viewers just a little bit about yourself, just tell us, where you're from and, what it is that you do.
Yes. Okay. Well, so I was born in LA, and which is where I am right now. I've lived in the Bay Area and kind of all around. But and in 2012, I became an ordained interfaith minister. And so that was kind of to the surprise of my family and friends, because there's no pastors in my family at all. We're all artist types, all musician types. So, and I've been very much involved in a lot of social justice work over the last 20 years of my life. So everything ranging from going over to actually Israel, Palestine, to immigration rights, to racial equity and racial justice. So my whole life is about creating as much change as possible, because God knows we need it now more than ever. We're living in a really interesting time on this planet. Yeah. So that's a little bit about me.
Hey.
For sure. Okay. So Felicia, question for you. So coming from Los Angeles, how did you, since there's no ordained ministers in the family, how did you get on your journey to ministry?
Well, it's a great question. It's a great question. So I was originally a classical pianist, I should say that. And that was what I was pointed towards. And actually anything involving music. And my father, I don't know if you all remember the rock band Chicago. Do you remember the rock band Chicago? So my dad started that band. So I grew up in the music business and everything entertainment. And so it kind of was a natural path for me to go into music. To be honest, a lot of stuff happened that was really, really challenging. And I found myself involved in drugs, and you got to laugh about it. You got to make jokes at this point, but because I really touched the veil. I don't know how many times. Like, it's amazing that I'm alive, truly. So by 24, 25 years old, I was just like, it was severe. It was severe. I was barely alive. And fortunately, I had a spiritual experience, as it's often called, like a spiritual awakening, a spiritual moment. And that's when for me, it mattered. I needed to get sober. And that was, like I said, that was just one thing. I was just I'm an equal opportunity self-destructor, or I was. It was like, you name it, I'll do it. So, but once I got my act together, that same intensity that I had for self-destruction, I was able to turn it. I was able to turn it around and be pointing that towards positive change and, healing and everything that's good about this life. So I would say it was only about 2 years in when I got my call to ministry. And that's a whole nother story. And I don't know if we have time for it now, but my call to ministry came at Carl's Jr. You know Carl's Jr.?
Oh, yes. Do tell the story.
What was that?
Do share.
Do tell, okay. Because, this is so Felicia too. most people, you hear about pastors and they have some moment, like maybe they're on a retreat somewhere, or I don't know. But then, for me, it's like I'm at Carl's Jr. and I'm at the drive-thru and I'm getting jalapeno poppers and bam. And I mean, it is more spiritual than that. And that there was someone that was homeless. And when I pulled up, and this was on my 28th birthday, by the way, and I was turning 28 at the time, on August 28th, pardon me. And so I pulled up to this drive-thru in Sun Valley, California. And this guy just asked, do you want to get high? And I'm thinking, the hell, like, why is this dude asking me this? And I just told him, I said, no, man, I'm clean. I'm sober. And then it got really real. He just started telling me, he's like, I have a family. I haven't seen my family in 10 years. And he starts crying. Next thing I'm not crying, but I'm like feeling it. I mean, it was very intense. And meanwhile, my food didn't come. I mean, it was a moment that was supposed to happen. And, like I said, when I pulled away from there after I had this exchange with this man, I told him, like, don't give up. Whatever it is you do, just try. Don't give up, dude. Don't give up. And then when I pulled away is when I went, Felicia, you had a lot of shit go down in your life. Like, it's amazing you're alive and you need to give back. You need to do something with your life that is not about you, that is about creating change in this world. And really is, I don't want to say helping, because helping people can sound, I think, really condescending. So more about like serving folks. And that was it. I mean, I'm 49 now. And so that was, 21 years ago or something. So I've been on it ever since. That's it.
And you
That's
look
like
amazing, by the way.
Doesn't she look
Thank you.
That's so inspiring. Like, just so randomly in the drive-thru, you didn't walk into a church house or anything like that. It came to you. So I understand your perspective of being called, because really, that was the situation. That's really, I love that. That's so cool. So cool.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
and it's such a great story too, Felicia, just because, like, we had talked to someone earlier, and it's like God will come to you anywhere. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I mean, you can be on the toilet for all you know, and he can come and talk to you and tell you what it is, So just keeping that transparency is just, and the story is just fantastic too. It's like,
it's so true. It's so true. Cause like, and this is what I love doing, is like reframing, what does a minister look like? Reframing, even how we're supposed to minister. What is ministry? Ministry to me is connecting with people. It's this right here. Like, this is church right now, period. Like, it doesn't have to be, not to say there's anything wrong with like going to church on Sunday. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying what I've enjoyed doing is turning everything on its side. That's one of the things I'm really good at, is like agitating people into thinking in different ways and going, oh, I mean, for example, like, women aren't allowed to be ordained oftentimes, right? I mean, it depends on what religion you're part of, but there is still a thing where, as a female, we're not as empowered in this life, in this world. So the seminary I went to was incredible in that there were a lot of women from different backgrounds and also different sexual orientations that were shunned by the church, and we all had a place, regardless of our identities. And so as a female, I have noticed that just being a female and being a pastor and looking like I do with tats and all of this, it's it rocks people a little bit, but why not? Why not? Because the work is true. Like, my heart is in this work. My love for God, spirit, source is always at the center of everything I do. So.
Yes, ma'am. Ooh, yes, ma'am. I know, I follow your ministry and everything on Facebook, and you always have great, just intuitive things to say. You crack me up. Like you're just a well-rounded individual. I love it. Tell us a little bit about your ministry, A Revolution of Love.
Okay, well, let's see. So the acronym is ROLL, Revolution of Love, ROLL, and it's a ministry and a movement. When I first started, I called it an interfaith ministry because I'm an ordained interfaith minister. So the main thing that I want people to know is like, if you're Jewish, if you're Buddhist, if you're Hindu, if you're Christian, whatever, then you have a place. But what I started seeing very early on when I started it in 2012 up in the Bay Area was that I had like agnostics coming. I had like an ex-Mormon like coming to service. I had pagans coming. I had witches coming. And so I realized, wait a minute, this is a multi-path ministry. So like, look, everybody has a path. It may not include believing in like God. It may be nature. There's someone that like for them, their higher power is a tree or something like this. So I just realized that it was really important to change the wording and create, a multi-path ministry, which truly would be including everybody. And then the other thing that sets ROLL apart is the social justice component. So, and it's also the thing that has, I would say, turned people off because, when people go to church, they want to feel good. They don't want to hear about the problems and the violence and the injustice in the world oftentimes. And one thing at ROLL is there is a charge like, look, there's a lot going on this planet right now. Like we're here to be of service. And I know I keep saying the same thing, but that was like the call out, like or the charge out is to have folks inspired to do something instead of just sitting around and going, oh my God, like, oh, this is this is terrible. My life is terrible. The world is terrible. It's like, well, then fucking do something. Fucking do something then. So that was the ways that like ROLL we've been involved in various things over the years and, collaborating with different organizations and different causes and stuff. So it's a two-sided thing at ROLL. It's like, do the work on yourself, get your healing on, and then get healing, like do something, like don't just sit and be a bump on the log, but actually get out there and do whatever it is you feel called to do. So,
yeah, I love it. That's like a pay it forward type of situation. But that's the best way because, I also feel that whatever positive energy that you put out there into the universe, it can do nothing but reciprocate if it came from a genuine place, like you said. So they need to go out there, and if someone was able to help them, I'm sure we all have a calling. So what is it like if you have people that are coming to see you talk or whatever, because you have these pagans and agnostics and all these people come and listen to you. So for someone who's trying to find their interfaith, what are a few pointers you would give them when it comes to finding their spiritual guide?
Well, see, this is again where I'm a different pastor. This sounds like maybe I'm not answering the question directly, but it is. I was a chaplain in the hospital setting for the first few years of my ministry, and I worked in death and dying, and I worked in oncology, and I remember as a new pastor, the thing you do not want someone to ask you is, why is this happening to me? When say they've gotten the diagnosis that they've got 6 months to live. And here I am, imagine this, like I'm brand new and I get this page to get over to the hospital and the patient has, I believe it was pancreatic cancer. And I remember going in and I was really scared. I'm thinking, oh shit, what am I going to say to this man that's going to like make a difference? Like, and of course, what does he ask? why is this happening? And I'm going, oh no. But I had to keep it real because I don't, and Pam, you know this about me. It's like, pardon me, I'm not going to pretend to know something if I don't. And I think like clergy and pastors and people and typically that do what I do, we're supposed to have all the answers. And I know that that makes people feel safe. However, I'm not sure at this point in time in 2023 I find that very arrogant. And so I just kept it real with this guy and I said, I'm not sure why this is happening to you, but let's journey together. And all I can say is I'll be here with you for it. We can do this together and figure it out. And that's the attitude that I've taken when people come to roll into services, especially if they're in like the crisis of faith, is like, what is God to you? Like I created something called the God Project. And, it's just perfect for people that like, they don't know what they believe in. Like, if they were raised in the church, maybe the church hurt them because they're gay or because they're this, they're transgender, or I don't know. But I've had folks come in that have been wounded very badly by religion or the church, whatever faith I should say. And I've posed that question like, well, what is God to you? What do you need God to be? What does that look like? And we've had like collages, people making like a collage and like, drawing, painting it out and all this stuff, or writing it, or writing a letter to whatever they believe in. I mean, I know this sounds heretical. I know like this is totally heretical in a certain sense, but I think that it's important to think differently even about, how we were raised to believe and to create what it is that you need. God is love. Okay. Then what does that mean? What does that mean to you? And like, what does that look like? Do you see it? Is it an energy? Is it so,
I love your take on it because, like you were saying, I grew up Catholic, so it was just a sin if you didn't go to church every Sunday. You had to pray, you had to do your rosary, you had to do everything, and I would definitely consider myself like a religious black sheep. I'm more spiritual than I am religious, and I've come to be okay with I can pray anywhere and I can worship God anywhere. I don't have to be necessarily in the house of God to worship my Lord. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And you just saying that, it just takes it just makes my wheels turn because it's like, well, wow, there's nothing wrong with me. It's just I was raised a certain way, but the way that I think and the way that I believe and pray, there's nothing wrong with. It's perfectly fine. And we need more of that in this world, honestly, Felicia.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think so too. I really agree with that because, myself, I grew up in a Catholic, my mother was Catholic, and my dad kind of converted or started looking at like Islam and stuff like that. So I kind of was open as a kid to like different different aspects of like the Bible, the Quran and stuff. But this is like definitely a new concept for me because you really are meeting people where they are. And it feels inviting to them. And I think it'll allow them to open up their heart and mind to receive God in whichever way they can. So that's absolutely beautiful, what you're doing.
I love that you said that too, because that's in the vision statement. We meet people where they're at. That's actually in the vision statement, what you just said. So, and I mean, that's so wild that you just, because that is so important to me. And that is the difference between like most churches or temples, mosques, because, and, rightly so, like if someone's saying, hey, this is what we're about, this is the religion, this is like how we believe. Okay, great. But see, we're saying, what is it that you believe? You bring it to us. We'll like meet you. It's like a dance. And this might be because I'm a musician and, that's my background. There's like a rhythm and a flow to roll, like not just the services, but like everything, like how we connect with each other. And like I said, this is all about connection. I mean, if we were to connect more in a healthier way as people, I mean, this world would be a very different place. Like if we had much more like sacred and holy connections, shit, the stuff, what we're seeing in the Middle East right now. I mean, it would be and I know I sound like I'm simplifying it and obviously there's politics involved, but at the same time, this is about our humanity. That's where I come from. This is about humanity. And when we're not connecting, then we're lost. And this is why people hurt themselves. You know, and I'm just all about like, we got to connect as much as possible here. I mean, look, Pam and I, that's what happened. You know, I met you and then the next thing we're like connecting and now here I am with all of us here. So like, it's just so imperative that we do that and meet people where they're at and not have these like hierarchical bullshit structures of like, okay, you're down here and I'm up here, you know, I'm the preacher. It's like, no, like that's not what we're going to do. We're going to like flatten this out and create spaces that are brave and bold and fun. So, yeah.
And a lot of religious leaders, they miss the mark. Like, I feel like they miss it completely. They're so wrapped up in what everyone in their congregation is going to think if they, you know, take a political or social activism stance on whatever the topic is. I feel like a lot of them are not really, or they'll pick like a safe one to, you know, like save the planet. I guess when you talk about the ocean, which is, of course, we need to preserve the earth, but it's safer than talking about human civil rights and stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's people that have walked out. There's people that have left role because of, you know, to me, there's hard lines. There's hard lines when we're talking about racial equity and racial justice. This is not to be debated. When we're talking about immigration rights, we got kids at the border dying. This is not to be debated. You know, there's hard lines, and those are just a couple things. But yeah, we've lost people as a result, and you know what? That's okay. Reverend Sekou from Black Lives Matter in Ferguson, he's a colleague and a friend, and I remember when I was first starting out, I said, "Man, I want like, you know, 100 people coming to service," and he said something very poignant, and that was, "It's about the quality. It's about the quality. Like, are you serving the people? And what's on people's hearts and minds? You know, are people engaging? Are they healing? Are they connecting?" So we may have only had like over the years, like say 25 on Zoom during the pandemic. We had a ton of people. And then it starts to, you know, fade out a little bit where it was like back to 25. I don't know what the number 25 is, but you know, you can get caught up in all these numbers and things. And it's like, no, it's not about that. You know, it's about, again, you know, what's on the hearts and minds of the people. And even if it means like, yeah, you take a stand on the right side of justice, on the right side of history, and people don't get it yet. It's been very important for me to not get angry about those kinds of things, though, and to just continue teaching and yeah, hopefully, you know, raising as much awareness. So
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, you're so passionate about just like civil rights, human rights, all, you know, everything. Just to hear all the current events that are happening on the other side of the world, it's infuriating.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, like, I'm glad that we're having this discussion too. It's just the sense of helplessness that just me, myself, I feel like, what can we do, you know, for these people? And it's just, it's sad. It's stressful. You know, even though you're not in that situation, it's still a very hostile and stressful situation. You know.
What was that, Pam? That last part that you just said?
Oh, I said it's just a hostile and stressful situation for us. Just watching what's going on the other side of the world. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, what can we do?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important to name it and say that, what you're both saying, because I think we're going too quickly through, like, there's a massive tragedy happening right now, right? I mean, from the attack that started, is it okay to go there and talk about this, or what do you think?
Absolutely.
Because I was over in Israel, Palestine back in 2009, I think it was. And I went because I wanted to see for myself, what the hell is going on here? And so we worked, the delegation that I was on, we tried to get into Gaza. We brought supplies. We didn't get anything in. Nothing.
Wow.
No shampoo, flour, nothing. They didn't let us in. They didn't let anything in. So it's important to contextualize what has been happening to Gaza, to Gazans, to Palestinians for 75 years, say, and to understand the level of degradation and oppression, to be in an apartheid situation. And then, of course, this terrible attack that is horrible, like Israeli civilians dying, Israeli babies, Israeli people dying, being killed. Terrible. And I took heat last week from everybody, because I was saying, we just need to slow this down and respect that, people are dying. And it's tricky. It's a tricky thing when you say that, because it can be taken in other ways. Kind of like the all lives matter saying, right? So it's, and again, to just contextualize it and to recognize, why did this attack happen? It's horrible, and denounce it completely, but why did this happen? What kind of desperation does it take for people to fight back like this? So, and also recognizing that, how much do we know, really, right? Let's face it, the media, come on, there's so much shit that we probably do not know that is happening right now, that was going on. And that's why, when I went over there, what I saw was, it was scary. I mean, to see the young Israeli kids packing AK-47s, it's normal, because that's just part of it. That's just part. You're walking through Tel Aviv. There's the Mediterranean Sea, and it's a militarized state. I mean, that's a wild thing to be walking around in. And then to meet with Palestinian women, to meet with these women that have had their homes bulldozed 6 times. And then and I have photos of this, actually, which I was going to post a little bit on social media, but I've been hedging it, because there's so much trauma going on right now. I want to be respectful, how the level of trauma that people are having or experiencing. So these women, I'll never forget when we asked, how do you get through? I think I asked them that. We had a translator, and to this Palestinian mother, and we said, how do you get through this? Your home being bulldozed, and we're sitting there in this shack. And she, this gets me. She looked up and she went, Allah. And that was it. And I just was like, that's some badass shit. That is some brave stuff to be getting through that. So that's just what I know. That's in the sense of what I saw. And, this has been going on. This ethnic cleansing of the Palestinian people has been going on. And the loss of life, this is just terrible. It's atrocious. And I think the answers, I don't really know. I mean, I think it's important to really, and this is a big part of collective liberation work and anti-oppression work. And I don't know if you all know, do you know Adrienne Maree Brown by chance?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I love her. Everything in abolition circles is all about feeling and like getting like reconnected, like decolonizing our minds and our bodies. And I just love that because I think, especially right now, I think just feeling this, which you both said, like how terrible this is, instead of like getting performative and like, I stand with this, I stand with that, I stand, it's just like, whoa, what the fuck? Like people are fucking dying. Like,
Exactly.
you know?
I can only imagine as well because, we're seeing clips from both news networks and also, some of the freelance journalists that are sharing on their own social media platforms. But since you were able to meet these women in person and these children, and you're actually seeing kids, like you said, walk around with AK-47s, just putting myself in that, it seems unreal. It seems like some type of video game that I have never experienced. So when we say here, in the United States or other countries that are, of course, not perfect, but man, we're not going through that. So I think that alone is a reason for a lot of us to just have gratitude when we wake up, that, wow, that is like, it's really bad. It's really, really bad. And I also like your choice of words, like decolonization, stuff like that, because I feel like, okay, someone is finally speaking real truth. Like, this is what's going on. It is a cleansing, very comparable to, the Hitler days. So It's crazy. It's really crazy what's going on in the world right now.
It is. And it's so sensitive because, when you have people that were targeted in the way of the Holocaust, or what is also known as the Shoah, that cellular trauma and the core of that, that's real, and I don't have a stake in this. Like, to be clear, I said this to a colleague of mine because we kind of went at it. And I said, I'm not Jewish. I'm not Israeli. I'm not Palestinian. I'm not Muslim. Like, I'm coming into this just as a human being. And I can't imagine having that like DNA, like that kind of trauma. Like, and we know that's real. Like, there's, even if one did not have Holocaust or family members in the Holocaust, but that having that tie, that connection, that cellular level is freaking real. And so it could sound anti-Semitic, some of the things that I just said, and it's absolutely not where I'm coming from at all. I started actually at the ADL, the Anti-Defamation League here in LA, which is one of the oldest human rights organizations that is fighting anti-Semitism. So I ran the gamut with all this, is my point. And yeah, I support a free Palestine, and I also, my heart is totally breaking, as all our hearts should be breaking, regarding kids and Israelis and Palestinians. I mean, these people, nobody's winning here, nobody's winning here. And with that, this is an ethnic cleansing. As we're recording right now, this is what's going on. So, how to find the joy in all of this, right? Like, how do we find joy in a world where injustices are often eschewed, just like, because we do have to keep going, right? We have to, we got to keep living. Like, so that's why, Pam, you've seen me on the pole. A pastor that polls. I'm a little baby pole dancer because I'm new.
She's got some moves.
Multi-talented, okay? Spreading the word, pole work, all of it, okay? That's an art in itself. So elaborate on that. So how did you get into pole? Because that's a really great form of fitness as well.
Oh my gosh, I am like jacked. Like, my arms, like, I'm not going to have a neck soon. Like, my traps are like, I'm going to be like walking, but no, but seriously, like, I have to, as long as I've been involved in all this, in this work that we've just been talking about, like, I've had to find places of joy And this is any of us. Like, life is freaking hard. Like, life is hard. And I got, recently in the last few years, my dad was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. And it's been very, very hard and sad to see this very, my dad being on stages and, being a famous person, and me having him up here for sure, to see this sadness, to see this shifting and this changing, which is going to happen, to all of us, of course, in some way. But I got to a point where I just went, I always wanted to take a dance class, always, for like since I was little. But I was always a musician, so there was no time to dance. I always said if I wouldn't have studied music, I would have studied dance. And so here I am, May 2nd, 48 years old, going into a pole studio, and like, I got to be out of my fucking mind. Like, I'm doing inverts. I'm like, what am I doing? But it's been so life-giving. I absolutely love it. I'm like, yeah, there's going to be a pole in this apartment soon enough. Like, all there is to it. Like, because it feels like, I don't know. I can't believe I waited this long to do, because, movement is so powerful. My gosh, like, dance is it just connects in ways that surpasses the mind, right?
Right.
And it is good fitness, like you're saying.
Yeah.
For sure. And so you've got a combo deal because, you're a musician, you feel the rhythm, you're dancing, you're feeling the rhythm that way too. So it's like it's a physical and a mental thing too.
Mm-hmm. It is. I mean, it's, some of those videos early on, I'm still learning, like underlined, boldface, italicized. I'm still learning. So like some of it's kind of hilarious, but I don't care. Like, I'm not being graded, like,
right, exactly. You learn on your own terms. So.
Exactly. So I'm sure it's caused a little concern amongst some of my colleagues. Like, is she having a breakdown? Like, because I got some calls, like, Pastor, are you okay over there? It's like, yeah, I'm okay. Like, I know your dad's sick. Are you, everything okay? Because you're on the pole, like, spinning. So, like, so yeah, I mean, is it a breakdown? Is it a breakthrough? It's fun. Like, I'm having a blast. And I can't remember the last time I actually had this much fun doing something. Like, preaching is a blast because you're channeling. If you're in that flow, you're just channeling. Playing music, same thing. You're channeling. And this is a different thing because you get to use your body. So it's all good. I love it.
Yes. I was also going to ask, so you also dabble with like the tarot cards and mysticism and stuff like that. So give us a little bit of insight on, like, I don't know, it's palm reading or everything that it entails. Sorry if I said the wrong thing. I don't know what all it involves. So can you share with us?
Yeah. Well, so on my father's side, we're actually Roma. We're part Gypsy. So there's that. And I remember growing up, and my ancestors would read playing cards. So not even like just tarot cards, but just playing cards. And then, like tea leaves, when people read tea leaves or coffee grinds or what have you. So I remember all of that kind of stuff going on. And when I was 11, I had an aunt. Actually, this was on my mother's side, but my aunt had a deck of cards, of tarot cards. And she gifted me with these cards, which I still have this deck. So this deck must be like 50 some years old. And then she gave me a little crystal ball, and my mom was kind of like, okay, this is getting really weird. But so this is mysticism has always been with me. But when I started having all those struggles that I referenced earlier, I really fell away from anything, even like whether it was mysticism or spirituality or religion. I was like, screw all this. Like, there ain't nothing here. So I walked from it. And then I found this teacher really, when I went to seminary school, that was a mystic. And she saw it right away. And then there was Sabonfu, rest in peace, Sabonfu Some. She came to the seminary to teach, and she saw this too. So I had all of these women, these like powerhouse women spiritual leaders from whatever background or faith, like saying like kind of like come back to it. So shit, I don't want to like astrology, this, that. I don't want to get involved in any of that anymore. So, but it just kind of started happening. And then like, you all know about like clairs, right? Like clairsentience or clair. Yeah. So that was always there. But again, I think this happens to a lot of us. Yeah. Because I think we all have these gifts. I think we all have different like psychic or intuitive abilities. But often, we shut them down. Sometimes trauma, we're feeling too much and we're like, okay, we shut it down. Or it's society, like, oh, that doesn't exist. So working with these different teachers, things just started happening. And I can be woo-woo, but I'm also very like real. Like, I'm like, if I don't see it, it doesn't happen. And there was stuff that would just go down that was like, you could not make sense of it. Like there were things that were happening in like classes that were just out there. But anyway, so that's how I got back into reading cards and just really believing in any of this stuff that I always like to say is beyond thoughts and words. And having been in university, like your mind just like shuts this shit down. Like,
exactly.
Oh, you know what I mean? It's like society. It just our society.
The science of it all versus, the what if, the possibilities of the universe. So I feel they kind of mesh. So of course, science is science, but there's definitely a spiritual realm. Like there's definitely, and I get deja vu a lot. And I'm like, wait a minute, this already happened. So like, I'm really trying to like hone into that little voice and be like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm getting a little more into my little, my group of, not telling the future, but kind of like just dealing with stuff that's going to happen. So, yeah.
It's real.
I love that. I mean, yeah. I mean, do you either one of you, do you notice that you have like certain, what would it be? Like, do you feel things more intuitively, or do you like have a sense of knowing, or?
For me, it's the deja vu. Like she said, I have, and I can recall nights where I've had the deja vu, and it'll happen 4 or 5 years later. I can't see a clear picture of the person's face. I can see the body structure. I can see the skin color. I can see everything but the person's face. And then I know what's going to happen. And up to the time that it does happen, I'm like, oh my God, I've done this before.
Oh, wow.
And it actually happens, and I see exactly who it is.
Wow.
So it's almost my deja vu is like a mystery. Like I don't get to see who it is until it happens.
Wow.
I get that. I get the deja vus, and then I also will sometimes be like, you know what? Something is going to happen out of the normal. Or if I like go into like a shopping center or a mall, and I'd be like, something's telling me I'm going to see somebody I know. And then I don't know. I get stuff like that. Like kind of it's a little intuitive about stuff that's like about to happen.
That's interesting. That's really interesting. I mean, I love this stuff. And as women, there's a great book. I don't know if you've read it. Women Who Run with the Wolves by Clarissa Pinkola Estes. Oh my God. It's like the first chapter. When I read this, I was just like, oh my God, this is so good. Because she talks about how as women, we have this internal knowing, we get these messages or signs, and what we've often done as a result of patriarchy or, different cultural, societal shit is we've turned it off. I mean, I think about this with relationships. Shit. I wish I would have there's so many times I knew in a relationship, like 10 days in, like, oh, this isn't good. run, you know what I mean? Like, and then I'm like, oh, but no, he's fine. I just know I can fix it. And it's like, no, I freaking knew like 10 days in. And that's that clear cognizance that I had when I was a little girl. And so to like come back to that now and have other women teachers, like I just mentioned, from Simone Fusome to Megan Wagner to Jane DeQueer, who's a Cherokee woman, working with these women that have just like held it down. And we're like, no, like this is real. This is true. Like you have these gifts. I mean, it's pretty heavy duty. It's pretty emotional to like come home. And I think as women, this is an important thing for all of us. It isn't just about me. This is like, I really believe we have these gifts that often we don't even fully utilize or recognize. And yeah, so there's that. Mm-hmm.
So much info, so much good information that I'm retaining. I'm just like, I just think you have a completely different outlook and perspective than a lot of people do. So it's really cool. And, you know, I don't know. Do you know what it's called? Like I said, I have little kind of knowing what's going to happen before it happens. What is that called?
Like premonitions?
Is it a premonition? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that is a premonition. Yeah.
And my sense is you probably have like, from what you just described, it sounds like you have some clairvoyance or you are clairvoyant. You know, so one of the things that I get to do with folks, and I started adding this because I was quiet about it, you know, because again, you know, you're a pastor, you can't say this witchy shit because then, you know, again, it's like she's on a pole and now she's freaking talking about psychic shit. Like, oh my God, you know, it's just like, there's so much going on. There's the pink hair. There's, I don't know. So, but one of the things I've gotten to do with folks is work with them one-to-one to develop however their clairs work or their psychic gifts that they have. And I've worked with various people on this, and it's so exciting to see their gifts come online more. And because everybody's, you know, got kind of their own signature with it. So like someone that I know, yeah, they read cards. So, you know, we worked together for a good year to just kind of get them to really trust that they're an oracle, that they're able to do this, to connect in this way and allow like almost like a funnel to like come through them and to channel in this way psychically and give a reading. So it's been so much fun. Like I'm getting more and more involved in that world as well. Like I said, it was something that I wanted to be mindful of and, you know, not and have boundaries with. And because there are a lot of folks, let's face it, there's a lot of people that will say things and, you know, kind of come off like they're these psychics and they're doing some weird work. There's some weird stuff. So it's important to have boundaries with it, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, Ms. Felicia, I know that you do have something up and coming in 2024 in the works of a book. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
A little booksy. Yeah. Let's hope. Let's hope I really, you know, it's been hard. Like writing, I have so many books, I should say that first. And like, I'm looking even at all these sticky notes, like right on the wall. And I've got like a whole workbook series. I have kids books. I've got it all organized. It's just hard to, you know, to get all the time in or get the time to write. And then of course I want to do a show. I shouldn't say of course, but I want to do a 1-person show off this first book. So yeah, hold me in prayer or good vibes or good energy because it's all in here. But I don't know. There's a little bit of a challenge that I'm experiencing with it. So I'll get there. Yeah. Thanks for asking about it.
Of course.
Yeah.
Great stuff, Felicia. Thank you so much. And also to mention, I love your tattoo, your butterfly.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Yeah. Go ahead and close it out.
What was that?
So one of many tattoos.
One of many, I know.
Many.
I just got a limo on the side of my leg, a Charger limo that says Queen, like
Nice.
tattooed just like 2 weeks ago. So yeah, gotta have that.
If you don't mind, just shout out your social so our followers can follow the wonderful life of Felicia.
Yes, so I'm Rev_Felicia is one account, and then where you see all the alternative stuff is Felicia the artist _ on Instagram, and I'm also on Facebook as Felicia Parazaider too. So, yep, that's me. Thank you so much, both of you. It's lovely being with you and being together.
Love it.
You know, we're trying to change this world just like you are, one podcast at a time, showing women empowerment, you know, just doing what we can. So
Thank you for what you're doing. It's so important.
yeah.
Thank you.
Of course, don't forget y'all to like, subscribe, go ahead and hit that bell notification so you can be up to date every week with each episode that we have going on. And of course, in closing, we do appreciate y'all so much for rocking with us for this full entire year of Dynasty Queens. I'm your host, Pamela Nicole, and I've got the beautiful
Mia J.
And this is Dynasty Queens.